My name's Kaya. I'm 38 years old, and I came home early from a business trip to find my sister tearing down my living room wall. Paint cans, drills, strangers, everywhere. At first, I thought I'd walked into the wrong house. But no, it was mine. My sister's voice still rings in my head. Don't freak out. Kaya, I'm just fixing things. That's where everything started to fall apart. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments, and subscribe for more stories about family, betrayal, and emotional courage. When I opened my front door that Friday evening, I didn't even recognize my own home. The air smelled like wet paint and dust, and a loud hammering echoed down the hallway. For a second, I froze, my suitcase still in hand. I had been gone for 10 days, just 10 days on a quick business trip to Chicago, and my cozy beige living room had turned into a construction site. My heart pounded. I thought maybe a neighbor had called workers for the wrong address. But then I heard a familiar laugh. My sister's laugh. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against a floor, now covered in plastic sheets and sawdust. The hallway walls, my freshly painted cream walls, were splattered with white primer. I turned the corner, and there she was, Emma, in ripped jeans and a paint-smeared hoodie, holding a roller in one hand and a phone in the other, blasting music through a Bluetooth speaker. Her boyfriend, Ryan, was using my drill on the kitchen cabinets. Two men I'd never seen before were hauling out my old rug through the front door. My breath caught in my throat. Emma, she turned, startled but not guilty. She grinned like nothing was wrong. Kaya, you're home early. Oh my gosh, you're going to love this. We're finally getting this place some color. I stared at her. What are you doing? Renovating, she said cheerfully. You said you hated how dull the living room was. Remember? I took care of it for you. I blinked. Took care of it for me? Yeah, she said, waving the roller. You've been so busy with work, and I thought, why not surprise you? New floors, new cabinets, maybe even knock out that wall. Make it open concept. Her boyfriend snickered, wiping sweat off his forehead. You should have seen the old wallpaper, Kaya. It was tragic. My stomach twisted. The wallpaper he was talking about was the one my late husband and I had picked together. We'd spent a whole weekend arguing about patterns until we finally settled on that soft gray floral. That wallpaper wasn't just decor. It was a memory. I swallowed hard, forcing calm into my voice. Emma, who told you could do this? She shrugged. You weren't here. I figured I'd help out. Help out, I repeated, my voice shaking. By tearing down my walls? She looked at me like I was overreacting. Come on, Kai, don't make it weird. I'm just trying to make your house feel alive again. Alive again. That phrase stuck in my head, heavy and bitter. I walked deeper into the chaos, past stacked boxes of tiles, a half-empty pizza box, and my favorite lamp now broken near the doorway. The house was unrecognizable. My home had always been quiet, warm, filled with little pieces of me. Now it felt like someone else's playground. Where are my things? I asked, my voice quieter now. She glanced toward the garage. Oh, I moved some stuff to make space. Don't worry, I kept your photos and, sentimental things. I didn't believe her. I went straight to the garage. My breath hitched. Every box labeled Kaya's Keepsakes was stacked haphazardly near the wall. Furniture wrapped in blankets. My wedding photo face down on a shelf. And in the corner, my husband's record player, covered in paint splatter. Something broke in me then. I walked back into the kitchen, my pulse trembling in my hands. You had no right. Emma turned off the music, her smile fading. It's just a house, Kaya. No, I snapped louder now. It's my house, my home. You don't get to just walk in and change things. Her boyfriend stepped in, arms crossed. She was just trying to help. You should be grateful someone cares enough to do this for you. Grateful? I repeated, almost laughing. You're standing in the middle of my kitchen, using my tools and my money. What am I supposed to thank you for? He rolled his eyes, muttering something under his breath about ungrateful women. I ignored him and looked at Emma. I want you to stop. Right now. Everyone out. But she didn't move. Instead, she looked at me the way she used to when we were kids, defiant, daring me to make her leave. You're being dramatic. You don't even live here half the time. Kaya, you're always traveling for work. You said yourself it felt too quiet here. I'm making it feel like home again. That's my choice, I said softly. She hesitated then, her confidence flickering for the first time. But instead of backing down, she crossed her arms. You always do this, she muttered. Act like you've got everything together. Like you're the only one who knows what's best. I felt a sharp sting in my chest. That wasn't just about the house. That was about years of something deeper. But before I could answer, one of the workers came in, holding a clipboard. Ma'am, are we still knocking out the wall between the kitchen and dining room? I turned to him slowly. No, you are not touching another thing in this house. He blinked, confused. But your sister said. I don't care what she said. I interrupted. This is my home. Pack your things and leave. Now, the men exchanged awkward glances, then slowly began gathering their tools. Emma's face went red. Kaya, this is ridiculous. You're embarrassing me. Embarrassing you? I said, stepping closer. You embarrassed yourself the second you stepped into my house and treated it like a project. Ryan scoffed, grabbing his jacket. Come on, babe. Let her live in her museum. The door slammed behind them, leaving a cloud of dust and silence. For a long time, I just stood there. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant barking of a dog outside. And under all of it, the thudding of my own heart. I sat on the couch, which was now covered in paint stains, and stared at the wall they'd half torn down. The house didn't even look like mine anymore. It felt invaded, like someone had peeled away its skin. And yet, beneath all the anger, there was something else. A quiet ache, a whisper of guilt. Emma had always been impulsive, but she wasn't cruel. Not intentionally. Maybe in her twisted way, she thought she was helping me move on. But help wasn't what I needed. I needed respect. I walked to the hallway, brushing my fingers along the wall, feeling the uneven texture of wet paint. Memories came rushing back. The night my husband and I first moved in, the laughter of our housewarming party, the smell of cinnamon candles in winter. Every inch of this house had a memory, and now half of them were buried under white primer. I took a deep breath and started picking things up. The broken lamp, the scattered nails, the pizza box on the counter. Each little task grounded me, brought me back to myself. As I cleaned, I noticed a small pile of unopened mail on the table. Bills, letters, and one postcard from Emma. The date was last week. It said, "Can't wait to show you what I'm working on. You're gonna love it." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I laughed, softly, bitterly. Love. That's what she thought this was. Love, disguised as control. By midnight, the workers were gone, the tools stacked outside, and I was left alone in the half-ruined silence. I sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker against the night sky. I should have called her. I should have yelled more. But all I felt was tired. That night, I slept on the couch because my bed was covered with dust and plastic. And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I realized something strange. This house didn't feel like home anymore. Not because of the renovations, but because it reminded me how fragile peace can be, how easily trust can be broken even by the people you love. And deep down, a quiet thought started forming, a thought that would grow in the days to come. If Emma could walk into my life and erase my home without asking, what else had she erased while I wasn't looking? I didn't know it yet, but that night was just the beginning. The betrayal wasn't only in the paint or the walls, it was buried somewhere much deeper. And I was finally ready to find it. The morning after my return, I woke up to the faint hum of power tools again. For a moment, I thought I had dreamt it all, the strange renovation, the surprise of seeing my sister tearing apart my living room, the uneasy silence that followed. But when I stepped out of my bedroom, barefoot on the dusty hardwood floor, reality hit me again. It wasn't a dream. The mess, the noise, and the smell of fresh paint were all still there. Boxes of my old belongings sat in the hallway, half open, like someone had gone through them in a hurry. I noticed family photos lying upside down on a chair. My framed graduation picture. The one mom had proudly hung by the staircase, now had a crack running through the glass. Lena was in the kitchen, dressed in her usual oversized sweatshirt, her hair tied up in a messy bun. She was stirring something on the stove like everything was normal. "Morning," she said, not looking at me. "You're up early." I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. I didn't really sleep. She nodded, still stirring. "Jet lag." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Lena, we need to talk about the house." Her spoon froze midair. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then, without turning, she replied softly, "I was going to tell you." "Really?" I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you already did a lot without telling me." She finally turned around, holding the wooden spoon like it was some kind of peace offering. "Look, Kaya, it's not what you think. I didn't mean to upset you. I just wanted to surprise you. You kept saying this place felt outdated, so I thought I'd make it feel more like home." I stared at her. "By tearing out the walls?" "It wasn't like that," she insisted quickly. "The contractor said." "What contractor?" I interrupted. "You hired someone to work in my house while I was gone, without even asking me." Her expression faltered, and I caught a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Kaya, please. It's not that deep. You were gone for 3 months, and I thought I'd help." "Help?" I let out a laugh, but it sounded hollow even to me. Help would have been paying my utility bill or watering my plants, not gutting my living room. She looked away, mumbling something I couldn't quite catch. "What was that?" I asked. She sighed. "I said it wasn't just for you." Her words hung in the air, heavy and confusing. I frowned. "What do you mean, not just for me?" But before she could answer, her phone rang. She reached for it immediately, glancing at the screen, and hesitated before pressing decline. Something about that hesitation didn't sit right with me. "Who was that?" I asked. "No one," she said too quickly. "Just a spam call." Her tone was light, but her hand trembled slightly as she set the phone down. I noticed her nails, paint chips, plaster dust, and something in me tightened. "Lena," I said slowly, "you're lying." She looked at me with wide eyes. "What? Why would I lie?" "Because your excuses sound like lies," I said quietly, "and I've known you long enough to tell the difference." She opened her mouth to respond, but I could see her scrambling for the right words. I wasn't even angry anymore, just hurt. I walked past her into the living room, scanning the space again. The old bookshelf was gone. My grandmother's vase was missing from the mantel. Even the rug, the one Mom had picked out, had been rolled up and pushed aside. "Where's my stuff, Lena?" I asked. "It's safe," she said quickly. "In the storage unit." "Which storage unit?" She hesitated again, and that hesitation was louder than any answer she could have given. I turned to her. "You don't even know, do you?" Her shoulders slumped. "Okay," she said finally. "Fine. I didn't put it in storage yet." It's at a friend's place. What friend? Just someone helping with the remodel. I took a step closer, my heart thudding. What's their name? She blinked, swallowed, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Kaya, why are you being like this? You're acting like I stole something. I stared at her, realizing that maybe she had. Not something material, but something deeper. Trust. I just want the truth, I said softly. Her voice trembled. Now. You wouldn't understand. Try me. For a second, I saw the old Lena, the one who used to braid my hair before school, who cried with me when Dad left, who swore we'd always have each other. But now, she looked like a stranger wearing my sister's face. Finally, she said, I didn't plan any of this. It just happened. That's not an explanation. She ran a hand through her hair, pacing. There's been a lot going on. Kaya. Money problems. The bills piling up. What bills? I interrupted. I've been covering the mortgage and utilities. You don't pay anything here. She froze, realizing what she'd said. And that's when it hit me. There was more she wasn't telling me. The phone rang again. This time, I reached it before she could. She lunged forward, but I held it out of her reach. Kaya, don't. The screen flashed a name I didn't recognize. Evan Contractor. I answered, hello. A man's voice came through, slightly muffled. Hey, Lena, just confirming the transfer went through. I'll start moving the furniture this evening. Okay. I felt my stomach drop. Who is this? I asked. There was a pause. Who's this? This is Kaya, I said sharply. The owner of this house. Another pause. Then the line went dead. I slowly turned toward my sister. She stood there, pale, her lips parted but no words coming out. What transfer, Lena? She looked down, her voice small. I was going to tell you. Tell me what? She swallowed hard. I needed money, Kaya. I was behind on payments, and I thought if I just rented out the place for a few months. My breath caught. You rented my house? Not the whole thing, she said quickly, panic rising in her voice. Just part of it. I figured you wouldn't mind since you were gone, and without even asking me, I said, my voice shaking. You lied to my face, Lena. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what else to do. I was desperate. You've always had things together, Kaya. I just needed a break, some help. I stared at her, trying to process everything. All the missing furniture, the strangers' names on the boxes, the strange renovation. It all made sense now. You were fixing it up to rent it. I said quietly, that's what all this is about. She didn't deny it. The silence between us stretched long and cold. The faint buzz of a saw outside was the only sound. You could have just asked. I said, finally, you could have told me the truth. I was scared, she whispered. You always judge me. That hurt more than I expected. Lena, I've never judged you. I've just tried to help you stand on your own. She shook her head. You don't get it. You have your job, your life, your perfect everything. I just wanted to prove I could handle something on my own for once. By stealing from me? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I wasn't stealing. But she didn't sound convinced, and neither was I. I turned away, staring out the window where a pile of old furniture sat in the yard covered with a tarp. My memories were under that tarp. My childhood, my comfort, my sense of home, all wrapped up and pushed aside like junk. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal or the fact that she thought I wouldn't find out. After a long silence, I said, You need to fix this, Lena. Every single thing you moved, every person you brought here, gone. Today. She nodded silently, wiping her face. I walked toward my room, too exhausted to say more. But just as I reached the door, she whispered, Kaya, there's something else. I froze. What now? Her voice broke. The people I rented to, they're moving in tonight. I turned slowly, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. What? I tried to cancel, she said desperately, but they already paid. The words hit me like a punch. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or laugh at the absurdity. My house, my sanctuary, and strangers were coming to live in it because my own sister had lied to me. The excuses had stopped making sense hours ago. Now they were just noise, empty, desperate noise from someone I thought I could trust. And for the first time since I'd come home, I realized this wasn't just about a renovation gone wrong. Something deeper was unraveling, something she wasn't saying yet. But I would find out, because from that moment, every excuse sounded like another lie waiting to be exposed. The evening air felt heavy, thick with the kind of stillness that comes before something breaks. I sat on the couch, well, what was left of it, staring at the bare patches on the wall where my pictures used to hang. My fingers traced the faint outlines of dust left behind by frames now gone. Lena was in the corner of the room, pacing, biting her lip the way she used to when we were kids, and caught doing something wrong. Except this time, it wasn't about stealing cookies or staying out too late. This time, it was my house, my home, and people I didn't even know were apparently about to move in. What time are they coming? I asked flatly, still staring ahead. She hesitated. They said around 7. I checked my phone. 6:42. So any minute now. She nodded. Kaya, please, I can fix this. I'll tell them it's a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. I said quietly, it's a lie you built one step at a time. Her eyes watered, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. I didn't even recognize her anymore. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway made us both turn. My chest tightened. Through the window, I saw headlights cutting through the dusk. 2 cars. Not 1, 2. The first was an old SUV. The second, a moving truck. Lena's face went pale. They weren't supposed to bring the truck tonight, she whispered. I stood up slowly. Apparently, they didn't get the memo. Before I could even process what was happening, the front door rattled with a knock. Firm, confident, like they already owned the place. I walked toward the door, each step echoing with anger and disbelief. Lena trailed behind me, wringing her hands. When I opened the door, a tall man in his 40s stood there, smiling politely. Beside him was a woman holding a clipboard and a little girl clutching a stuffed bunny. Evening, the man said cheerfully, "You must be Kaya. I'm Mark. My wife, Elise. We spoke to Lena." My stomach twisted. Spoke to her about what exactly? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. He blinked, confused. The lease agreement. She said we could move in tonight. I turned to my sister, slowly. Lease agreement. Lena's lips parted, but no sound came out. Elise frowned. Is there a problem? Yes, I said simply. A big one. Mark looked uncomfortable now. I don't understand. We paid the deposit, signed everything. Lena said she co-owned the house with you. That was it. The breaking point. I turned fully toward Lena. You told them you co-own this house. Her voice cracked. Kaya, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Mark crossed his arms. Look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but we have a contract. We've already moved out of our old place. The little girl tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, can I see my room? That single sentence broke the silence like glass shattering. I looked at the girl, innocent, excited, and something inside me softened just enough to keep me from exploding. I exhaled slowly. I'm sorry, I said gently. There's been a mistake. You can't move in here. This is my house, and I never agreed to rent it out. Elise frowned. But we have papers. Look. She pulled out a folder and handed it to me. I skimmed through it, my heart sinking with every line. It was an official-looking lease with forged signatures, mine included. I stared at the bottom, where Kaya Delaney was signed in a handwriting that looked eerily similar to mine. My throat tightened. "Lena," I said quietly, "did you forge my signature?" Her silence was the answer. Mark stepped forward. "We've already transferred the first month's rent. If this is some kind of scam." "It's not," I cut in quickly. "You've been lied to, just like me." They exchanged a worried glance. Elisa's face flushed with frustration. "We have nowhere else to go. Our lease ended today. We trusted her." I nodded, feeling a mix of anger and pity. "I understand, but you can't stay here. I'll make sure you get your money back." Mark shook his head. "No offense, but I don't think you're the one we made the deal with." That stung, but he wasn't wrong. Behind me, Lena whispered, "Kaya, please don't make a scene." I turned to her, my voice shaking. "You forged my name, took money from strangers, and let them think they were moving into my home. Do you even hear yourself?" Tears streamed down her face. "I just wanted to fix things. I thought if I rented it out for a few months, I could pay off my debts and return the money before you got back." The logic was twisted, but I could tell she believed her own lie. Mark's phone buzzed. He answered, muttering something about unloading to someone outside. My eyes followed his gaze toward the moving truck. Two men were already carrying boxes toward the porch. "Stop!" I shouted, running to the door. "No one is moving anything inside." The movers froze mid-step, looking between me and Lena. Mark sighed. "We're not trying to cause trouble, ma'am, but we've been hired to unload." "By her," I said, pointing at Lena. "And she had no right." The air was thick with tension. Elise picked up her daughter, whispering something to calm her down. The girl's big eyes darted around, confused. Finally, Mark raised a hand toward the movers. "Hold off for now." I turned to Lena. "You're going to fix this tonight. Call whoever you need to, return every dollar, and tell them the truth." She nodded weakly, clutching her phone. Her hands trembled as she dialed. But after a moment, her expression shifted. Panic flickered across her face. "They're not answering," she whispered. "Who's not answering?" "The agent. The one who helped me find the renters." "Agent?" I repeated. "What agent?" She swallowed hard. "He said he could handle everything. Paperwork, tenants, payments. He promised I'd make double the rent if I let him manage it." I stared at her. "You gave a stranger control over my house." Her voice cracked. "I thought he was legit. He had an office, a website." "Lena," I snapped, "did you even check if the office was real?" She went silent again. That's when I realized she'd been scammed too. The so-called agent had probably taken the renters' money and hers, leaving everyone tangled in his web of lies. But that didn't make it easier to forgive. Mark rubbed his temples. "This is unbelievable." Elisa's voice trembled with anger. "We've been conned." The little girl started crying softly, clutching her bunny. My heart twisted again. None of this was her fault. "Listen," I said softly, "I'll help you contact the authorities. We'll figure this out together. But tonight, you can't move in here." Mark nodded reluctantly. "We'll find a motel." As they turned to leave, Elise looked at me with tired eyes. "Be careful who you trust," she said quietly. "People can look kind and still destroy your life." Her words lingered long after their car disappeared down the street. When the last taillight faded, I turned back to Lena. She was sitting on the stairs, head in her hands, sobbing quietly. For a long time, I didn't say anything. I just looked around the house that no longer felt like mine. Finally, I said, "You didn't just let strangers in, Lena. You opened the door for something worse. You let chaos into our home." She looked up, her eyes swollen. "I'll fix it, Kaya. I swear." I shook my head. No, this isn't something you can fix overnight. I walked toward the kitchen, needing air, needing distance. But when I passed the counter, I noticed something that made me stop. A small silver key sitting next to her phone. What's this? I asked. She sniffed. Oh, the agent gave it to me. Said it was for the side entrance. The side entrance? I frowned. We don't have a side entrance. Her face went blank. What do you mean? I asked slowly. I don't know. He said he needed access for repairs, so I gave him one of the spare keys. Maybe he made a copy. My blood ran cold. I rushed toward the back door, flipping the lock, but it was already unlocked. Lena, I said, my voice trembling, did you leave this open? No, she whispered. I haven't touched it. Every hair on my neck stood up. I stepped outside, cautiously, flashlight in hand. The backyard was quiet, but something felt wrong. The gate latch was broken, swinging slightly in the wind. I scanned the yard. Boxes, furniture, even tools scattered about. But then my light caught something near the fence. A muddy footprint. Fresh. Someone had been here. I turned back toward the house, heart pounding. Lena was standing in the doorway, pale as chalk. What's going on? She asked shakily. I swallowed hard. We've had more than one kind of invasion. Lena, she frowned. What do you mean? I looked back at the footprints, then at the unlocked door. It's not just the renters. Someone's been coming in, and they didn't need your permission or mine. Her hand flew to her mouth. You think? I don't know what to think, I said, stepping back inside and locking the door. But from now on, no one goes in or out without me knowing. The house was silent again, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that made you listen harder, for creaks, for whispers, for signs that you weren't alone. I glanced at Lena, who looked like she might crumble any second. And for the first time, I felt something other than anger. Fear. Because the invasion wasn't just about strangers moving in. It was about something deeper, something that had already found its way inside long before I got home. The air inside the living room felt heavier than before, thick, unmoving, almost watchful. Kaya stood near the window, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, as if she needed something solid to hold herself together. The ticking of the clock on the wall grew louder, more deliberate, like each second was daring her to speak. Across from her, Lila sat on the couch, tapping her nails against her knee, eyes darting from Kaya to the half-open door, as if expecting someone to interrupt them. Her posture wasn't defensive, it was calculated. Calm, but only on the surface. Kaya finally broke the silence. Are you going to tell me why you did it? Lila blinked, tilting her head slightly. Did what exactly? Kaya's tone sharpened. Don't play that game. The renovations. The money from Mom's account. You knew I'd find out. Lila sighed, running a hand through her hair. You make it sound like I robbed her. It was for the house, Kaya. For us. It was falling apart. You saw the roof, the floors. Someone had to fix it. Without asking me? Kaya's voice rose, trembling with restrained anger. Without telling me where the money came from. Lila stood now, her expression hardening. You were gone for 2 years. 2. Do you know what it was like living here, dealing with everything alone? You didn't want this house. You made that clear when you left. Kaya's throat tightened. The memory stung. Leaving this town, this house, this life, had felt like escaping a cage. But now, standing here, it felt like the walls had grown teeth. This isn't about the house, Kaya said quietly. It's about the lies. Lila's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Something flickered in her eyes. A brief panic, quickly masked. She reached for a folder on the coffee table and handed it to Kaya. Fine, Lila said. If you want the truth so badly, look at this. Kaya hesitated before taking it. The folder was thicker than she expected, filled with receipts, letters, and legal documents. She flipped through them slowly: renovation bills, bank transfers, a property valuation. But one name kept appearing that didn't belong there. Daniel Quinn. Her chest tightened. Who is this? Lila looked away. A contractor. Kaya slammed the folder shut. No, he's not. I remember him. He's Dad's lawyer, the one who handled the will. Lila's jaw clenched. Why is he involved in this? Kaya demanded. Lila didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the kitchen counter, picking up a mug that had gone cold hours ago. Her hand trembled just slightly as she lifted it, trying to mask the shake by taking a sip. Kaya followed her. Lila, what did you do? The mug hit the counter with a loud clink. I did what I had to do. Lila snapped, finally meeting her sister's eyes. You think you know everything, but you don't. You were gone, Kaya. You left me with debts, letters from lawyers, calls from banks, things you never saw because you didn't want to. Kaya's pulse pounded in her ears. So you took Mom's savings? Lila's voice dropped to a whisper. It wasn't her savings anymore. The account was frozen. I needed money to keep the house, to pay off what Dad owed. Daniel helped me move some things around. Kaya froze. Move some things around. The phrase echoed in her head like a warning bell. You mean illegally? Lila didn't respond. For a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear. The sound of rain against the window pane grew faint, the wind outside muted. All Kaya could hear was her heartbeat and the memory of her father's voice, the one that used to fill this house with calm certainty. Do you even realize what you've done? Kaya whispered. If anyone finds out. Nobody will, Lila interrupted. Daniel made sure of that. Kaya took a step back. You trusted him? The man who cheated half the families in this town after Dad's death. Lila's face twisted, half in guilt, half in frustration. He wasn't cheating, Kaya. He was helping. He said there was a way to fix everything, to make sure we never lost the house. Kaya stared at her, disbelief washing over her features. At what cost? Silence. Then, softly, almost pleadingly, Lila said, You think I wanted this? I was scared, Kaya. Everything was slipping away. You were gone, Mom was gone, and I just wanted to keep something that felt like home. Kaya's anger faltered for a second, replaced by something heavier, sadness. Home isn't the walls, Lila. It's trust. And you sold that. Tears glimmered in Lila's eyes, but she blinked them away, standing tall again. You left first. That cut deeper than it should have. Kaya turned away, her hands shaking. The storm outside cracked loudly, thunder rumbling through the walls like an uninvited truth. Then a faint sound broke through, the vibration of a phone. Kaya turned back to see Lila's phone lighting up on the counter. The screen flashed a name, Daniel Quinn. Kaya's eyes locked onto it. Lila lunged for the phone, but Kaya was faster. She snatched it up, her thumb hovering over the screen. Don't, Lila warned, voice sharp, panicked. But Kaya answered. Hello. There was a pause, then a low, rough male voice. Lila, we have a problem. The papers you signed, someone's asking questions at the county office. You need to meet me tonight. Kaya froze. Her voice came out like steel. This isn't Lila. A beat of silence. Then the line went dead. Lila's face went pale. Kaya, please give me the phone. Kaya slowly lowered it, her eyes burning with betrayal. You forged documents, didn't you? Lila shook her head wildly. No, not exactly. Not exactly? Kaya's voice trembled, rising again. You forged Dad's signature, didn't you? Lila covered her face, collapsing onto the couch, her voice breaking. He told me once before he died that the house should always stay in the family, that if the bank ever came for it, I should do whatever it takes. I just, I thought that's what he meant. Kaya stood there, her body numb, the pieces of truth fitting together painfully slow. You changed the ownership records. That's why Daniel's name is everywhere. You transferred the deed illegally. I thought I was protecting us. Lila cried. You don't understand. Daniel said it was temporary. Just paperwork to stall the bank. Lila, you might have signed our father's name on a federal document. Kaya said, her voice trembling between rage and disbelief. That's not protection. That's a crime. For the first time, Lila didn't defend herself. She looked smaller, fragile, like the walls she'd built around herself had finally cracked. Kaya turned away, pressing her palms against her eyes. She wanted to scream, but all that came out was a broken whisper. You should have told me. I couldn't, Lila said softly. You would have stopped me. You're damn right I would have. The storm outside raged harder now, wind rattling the windows, as if the house itself was reacting to the truth tearing through it. Minutes passed in tense silence. Kaya paced back and forth, her mind spinning. Every word, every memory, every excuse Lila had given suddenly took on new meaning. None of this was about renovations or repairs. It was about fear, desperation, guilt. Finally, Kaya spoke, her voice quieter but firm. You need to call him. End this. Whatever deal you made, it stops now. Lila looked up, tears tracing her cheeks. It's not that simple. It has to be. Lila hesitated, then nodded slowly. She picked up her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed Daniel's number again. The line rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. Kaya exhaled shakily. He knows. That call earlier. He knows something's coming. Lila's hands dropped to her lap. What do we do? Kaya's eyes shifted to the window. The storm had started to ease, but the air outside was still restless, unsettled. We tell the truth, she said finally, before he does. Lila flinched. To who? The police. Kaya nodded slowly. It's the only way. Lila's breath hitched, but she didn't argue this time. For the first time that night, the silence between them didn't feel like a wall, it felt like a bridge, fragile but real. They were two broken halves finally facing the same truth. But as Kaya picked up the folder again, flipping to the last page, her stomach dropped. There, beneath Daniel's signature, was something else, an unfamiliar seal, a name she didn't recognize. Her pulse quickened. Lila, this isn't just Daniel. What do you mean? Kaya looked up, her expression darkening. Someone else is involved. Lila's face went white. Who? Kaya didn't answer. She just kept staring at the name, her fingers tightening around the paper as if holding it too loosely might make it vanish. The storm outside had passed, but inside the house, it had only just begun. The name stared back at Kaya from the page like it had been waiting for her. Margaret Hensley. Her signature was clean, deliberate, stamped with a seal from the county estate board. Kaya felt her pulse quicken. Lila, do you know this woman? Lila leaned closer, squinting at the page. No, never heard of her. Kaya didn't believe that. The name tugged at something in her memory, a conversation, maybe from long ago, something her father once mentioned when bills began piling up, and he'd spoken in hushed tones at the kitchen table. She traced the seal with her finger. This isn't just a fake signature. This is ownership transfer approval from the county. Whoever she is, she made this legal. Lila's eyes widened. Then the house isn't ours anymore. Kaya's throat tightened. Not on paper, no. The silence that followed was unbearable. The rain outside had stopped, leaving the world in a fragile, echoing stillness. Kaya could hear the sound of her own breathing, fast and uneven. Lila sank into the couch, pressing her palms to her temples. I thought it was temporary. Daniel said he'd file it under my name once everything cleared. Kaya paced across the room, clutching the folder. Daniel doesn't do anything temporary. If this woman signed off on it, she owns the property now, which means Daniel's using her as cover. Lila looked up, panicked. So what do? Kaya stopped, her expression hardening. We take it back. Lila blinked. How? We don't even know where to start. Kaya took a slow breath, steadying her voice. By finding her. And Daniel. If they think they can erase what belongs to us, they're wrong. By morning, the storm had cleared. A gray mist clung to the horizon as Kaya drove her father's old pickup through winding country roads. The town felt smaller than she remembered, as if years of absence had made it shrink. The streets, the faded storefronts, the hollow quiet. It all seemed to carry pieces of a past she hadn't meant to revisit. Lila sat beside her, silent. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the road ahead. They reached the county building just after 9. Kaya parked, grabbed the folder, and walked inside with purpose. The clerk behind the counter, a woman in her 50s with sharp glasses and an expression that said she'd seen it all, looked up as they approached. Can I help you? Kaya nodded. I'm looking for records connected to a Margaret Hensley. She signed property documents on Cedar Lane about 3 months ago. The clerk typed something on her computer, her long nails tapping the keys rhythmically. What's your relationship to the property? Kaya hesitated. It was our family home. I'm Kaya Mercer. The woman stopped typing. Her expression softened slightly. Mercer? As in Robert Mercer. Kaya nodded. The clerk pursed her lips. I remember your father. Hard-working man. Always on time with taxes. Until the last year or so. She looked back at her screen. Margaret Hensley filed an estate claim on that property as trustee. Said she was representing a private investor. Kaya's stomach sank. A private investor? What's his name? The clerk squinted. It's listed as Quinn Holdings. Kaya exchanged a glance with Lila. Daniel. Of course. Can I get her address? Kaya asked. The clerk hesitated, lowering her voice. I'm not supposed to give that out. But she slid a yellow post-it note across the counter. Sometimes people leave contact details for follow-ups. You didn't get this from me. Kaya nodded gratefully. Thank you. Outside, she unfolded the note. It had a simple address written in neat block letters, 218 Brookfield Road. Lila frowned. That's near the edge of town. You think she'll talk? She'll have to, Kaya said. She's sitting on our house. The drive to Brookfield Road took 15 minutes. The houses there were newer, clean-lined, with trimmed lawns and glass-paneled doors, nothing like the weathered wood and creaking porches of their old neighborhood. Margaret's house stood at the end of the lane, white siding gleaming in the late morning light. A car sat in the driveway, and the faint sound of a radio drifted from an open window. Kaya parked at the curb. Let me do the talking, she said. Lila nodded, though her face was pale. They approached the door. Kaya rang the bell. A few moments later, a woman in her early 60s opened it. Her hair was silver, pinned neatly at the back, and her eyes, sharp, assessing, flicked between them. Yes. Are you Margaret Hensley? I am. Kaya held up the folder. I believe you signed papers involving our home, 45 Cedar Lane. The woman's brow furrowed. Ah, the Mercer property. You know it, Kaya said evenly. I know of it, Margaret corrected. Mr. Quinn handled all communications. I only processed the documents. So you work for him? Her expression flickered. Just slightly. Not exactly. I'm a retired estate officer. He asked me to validate the title exchange for his client. His client? Kaya repeated. Margaret nodded. A holding company. He said it was for preservation purposes. Kaya's patience thinned. That's a lie. He tricked my sister into signing fraudulent papers and transferred ownership illegally. Margaret's composure faltered. I wasn't aware of any fraud. Kaya stepped closer. Then you'll help us fix it. Margaret hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if someone might be listening. Finally, she lowered her voice. If what you're saying is true, you need proof. And if Daniel Quinn's involved, you'd better be careful. He doesn't like being challenged. Kaya met her gaze squarely. Neither do I. The woman studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Come in. Margaret led them to a quiet sitting room lined with old books and framed certificates. She pulled a folder from a small safe hidden behind a cabinet. These are copies of the transfer documents Daniel sent me. I keep everything archived. Kaya opened the file, scanning each page. Her eyes widened. He used a fake buyer's name, Cedar Investments. That company doesn't exist. Margaret nodded grimly. I suspected as much, but the paperwork checked out. Forged signatures, if done well, can fool any registry system. Kaya looked up. Can you testify to that? Margaret hesitated. If it comes to that, yes. But I'd rather not end up on the wrong side of Quinn. Kaya exhaled, frustration bubbling under her calm tone. He's already crossed the line. You're the only one who can help us undo this. The older woman's eyes softened. You remind me of your father. Stubborn. Unyielding. Kaya managed a small, tired smile. He taught me well. Margaret stood and walked to a drawer, pulling out a small USB drive. Everything Quinn sent me, emails, scanned files, transaction logs. It's all here. Take it, but be smart. Don't confront him alone. Kaya accepted the drive, closing her hand tightly around it. Thank you. As they turned to leave, Margaret said softly, Be careful, Kaya. People like Daniel don't lose quietly. The sun had started to dip when they reached the car again. Lila slumped in the passenger seat, staring out the window. What now? Kaya plugged the USB into her laptop, scrolling through the files. Each document was worse than the last: financial transfers, digital signatures, even correspondence showing Daniel's manipulation of the estate system. He'd taken everything their parents worked for and disguised it under false ownership. Kaya's jaw clenched. We take it to the board. And the police. But if we do that, he'll know, Lila whispered. He already does. Kaya said, that's why he tried calling last night. The phone suddenly buzzed on the dashboard, as if on cue. The name flashed again, Daniel Quinn. Kaya didn't hesitate this time. She put him on speaker. Kaya, his voice came through, smooth but edged with tension. You've been busy. What do you want? I think we both know that house isn't worth the trouble you're inviting, he said calmly. Why don't you let this go? It's better for everyone. You forged documents. Kaya shot back. You stole what wasn't yours. He chuckled softly. Funny thing about ownership, it's all about paperwork. And as far as the county's concerned, I'm clean. Not for long. A brief pause. Then his tone shifted, colder. Be careful, Kaya. Some things aren't worth the fight. She hung up. For a long moment, neither sister spoke. Then Kaya started the engine. He's bluffing, she said, though part of her wasn't sure. Lila looked at her, eyes glistening. What if we lose everything? Kaya's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Then we start again, but not on his terms. By nightfall, they were back at the house. The porch light flickered, casting long shadows across the yard. Kaya unlocked the door and stepped inside, the familiar creak of the floorboards greeting her like a challenge. Lila followed, quieter this time. What if he comes here? Let him, Kaya said. He'll find. I'm not the same girl who left this town. She placed the folder and USB on the dining table, opened her laptop, and began composing an email to the county board, the legal affairs department, and a local journalist she still knew from school. Every keystroke felt like reclaiming something: dignity, strength, legacy. When she hit send, Kaya leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. It's done. Lila watched her, silent admiration breaking through her fear. You really think this will work? Kaya nodded. It has to. This house isn't just walls and wood, Lila. It's what's left of us. And I'm not letting anyone take that away. Outside, the wind began to rise again, stirring the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain through the open window. It felt like change, a quiet promise that after everything, she was finally taking back what was hers. The weeks that followed were quieter, but not easy. The investigation dragged through paperwork, calls, and late-night statements. Yet, every time Kaya stood in that old kitchen, her father's clock ticking faintly on the wall, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Ownership, not just of the house, but of her voice. Daniel's lies eventually folded under the weight of his own arrogance. The documents, Margaret's testimony, and Kaya's persistence painted a picture the board couldn't ignore. The house was returned. Piece by piece, she restored what was hers, ripping out his new fixtures, repainting the walls, and rebuilding the space into something that finally felt honest again. Lila apologized every day for months, though Kaya never asked her to. Some nights, they sat on the porch together, silent except for the sound of crickets and the hum of distant traffic. It wasn't forgiveness that kept Kaya beside her sister. It was understanding. Betrayal didn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it came from people who thought they were helping. Sometimes love and guilt wore the same face. On a cool Sunday morning, Kaya stood in the doorway of her freshly painted living room and let the quiet sink in. No more strangers' voices, no forged papers, no ghosts of control. Just her heartbeat, steady and free. For the first time since returning, the house felt like hers again, not because of the name on the deed, but because she had fought for it. As she locked the front door that night, Kaya realized something simple yet powerful. Home wasn't just a place. It was every boundary she reclaimed, every truth she faced, and every silence she refused to let consume her again. And though she would never forget what happened within those walls, she knew now that strength wasn't found in revenge. It was in survival. Quiet, steady, ordinary survival. She looked at the porch light, glowing faintly through the mist, and whispered, almost to herself, "Welcome home, Kaya.